They do want everybody to get the vaccine, except if you're coming across the border, which we have over 200,000 people every month coming across the border. Those people come across with COVID.
President Biden is looking to implement vaccine mandates across the United States.
Employers with 100 or more workers to give those workers paid time off to get vaccinated.
Since there is no law, the president certainly can't just make up a law and start ordering you to do things like get vaccinated.
It's no longer about your freedom, it's about your safety.
To protect us. He cannot overrule the Constitution. Those rights are not from him. Those rights are from God. They're inalienable. They're given to us by our Creator. They cannot be taken away by any government.
Welcome back, everyone. Texas is in the crosshairs of the Department of Justice, which recently filed a lawsuit against their anti-abortion bill and has also been challenging Texas's new election reform bill that's looking to close loopholes in the election system. And now as President Biden is looking to implement vaccine mandates across the United States, Texas is positioning itself as a major legal contender against these policies. Here to talk with us about this is the Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. And Ken, it's a real pleasure having you on Crossroads.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
So as we're talking right now, the Biden administration recently passed, of course, all these vaccine mandates. The Arizona Attorney General has already filed a lawsuit against them. Does Texas have anything moving on this against the vaccine mandates on the federal level?
Yeah, so actually there has been no rule issued by OSHA, which is where it's supposed to come from. The president has talked about it, but it's hard to file a lawsuit before there's actually a rule, because we don't really know what the rule is going to say. It's premature. And if the court made a decision right now, any lawsuit filed on a rule that doesn't exist would be dismissed. So we're not going to file a lawsuit before a rule exists because it's premature. It doesn't make sense. And it would be difficult to even know exactly what to file. You could go, you could guess based on what Joe Biden said, but that doesn't mean that the rule is going to say exactly what he said. So, it's definitely premature. I don't think we've ever filed a lawsuit before we read actually what the rule said. It's one of those things we like to read it before we file the lawsuit. So that would be our preference.
Yeah, that does make sense. Knowing what you're filing a lawsuit against before you file it, that makes sense.
That's usually the practice we try to follow, and we're going to follow it in this case because, truthfully, I've seen this done before. I've seen lawsuits filed before the rule was issued, and as far as I can remember, everyone I've ever seen got dismissed. It gets you out there. You get to be the first one to talk about it, but the reality is it's not an effective strategy to actually attacking a rule because you don't know what the rule is.
I see. So you mentioned OSHA. Of course, the Biden policy, according to what he's saying right now, is he's going to direct OSHA to make it so that businesses with over 100 employees have to either force their employees to get vaccinated or get a weekly test or possibly lose their jobs. What are some of the areas of this you're looking into? I know there's a few different takes on what it might violate, but it's, as you mentioned, a lot of it's speculative right now. Yeah,
I mean, just that general proposition, we obviously don't have our whole complaint drafted. We are working on a draft complaint based on what we think it's going to be. And the reality is the President of the United States cannot just make up laws. That's outside of his purview, outside of his constitutional role. The executive branch implements laws. That's their job. And so President Biden can't just stand up and say, "Oh, agency, go make a law and tell people they have to get vaccinated, force businesses to be punished if I say so." That's not the way the Constitution works. So we're pretty sure what he's doing will be unconstitutional if it is what he said when he made the statement. So obviously that would be for our first line of attack, just to say, look, he didn't have the authority to do this. Not even sure Congress could order somebody to get a vaccine, but certainly the President of the United States, unless we're into kingship now, and maybe we are, the President of the United States isn't a king yet, and he can't do that if we still follow this thing called the United States Constitution.
Wait. So explain this to us a bit more. You're saying that of course, the executive branch, the president's office, they cannot create laws. Of course, we understand the legislative branch typically does that, but Biden, I've heard some arguments on this. Maybe you can explain it a bit better to us because we're hearing all kinds of noise around it. they can't create laws? I mean, how does this work as it relates to these mandates?
Well, so the idea here is there's no, as far as I know, we haven't found it, there's no law out there that was passed by Congress that says we are going to require businesses, come from Congress, we're going to require businesses to require vaccines for people who are unvaccinated. And that might be questionable, actually. We might even challenge that as unconstitutional for Congress to tell somebody they have to get vaccinated. Congress probably can't even do that. But since there is no law, the president certainly can't just make up a law and start ordering you to do things like get vaccinated and go buy a house and go take this job. I mean, that's what we do with dictatorships. That's what we do if we have kings. But so far in this country, we're still, I think, following the Constitution, which says, executive, if you want to have something like that in place, you need to encourage Congress to pass it. And then they maybe give you the power to go implement that. That might be something that could happen, assuming Congress has the authority to do that.
Well, these are all pretty important issues. I mean, we've heard some different takes on possible violations of this. Some relate to the Constitution, some relate to powers of government, as you mentioned, which is, of course, under the Constitution as well. Others on the Equal Protections Act, others on the Civil Rights Act. It seems all over the place. Let's start with this Arizona lawsuit. They're saying that it violates, I believe, Title VII of the Equal Protections Act of the Constitution. And of course, it's speculative because we don't know the text yet. But can you explain to us the Equal Protections Act and how this might violate it?
So I haven't had a chance to look at the Arizona filing. I probably won't. My office may look at it as we draft ours, waiting to see what the actual rule says. But I'm not sure how applicable their argument is because, again, I don't know what the rule is actually going to say. And so I haven't spent a lot of time looking at their complaint. As I said, I think it's definitely premature and not sure exactly if a judge ruled on it right now. I don't know how they would rule because there's no rule to go by. So it's hard for me to know how to explain their lawsuit in light of the fact that they just filed it, and two, I don't even know if it goes to the actual rule.
You know, another big piece of this is that in New York, of course, our governor has put into place different mandates. And one of the mandates is, of course, making it so that healthcare workers have to get vaccinated. This has actually been put on pause by one of the federal judges here on the grounds that he's saying it may violate the Civil Rights Act. And this is interesting because Civil Rights Act is, of course, what they're using to push challenges to the election laws. But how might these laws, when it comes to forcing healthcare workers to get vaccinated, violate the Civil Rights Act? They're talking about religious liberty specifically.
Yeah. Well, so it may be that there are people that have sort of religious views that would affect their ability to get a vaccine, and they're claiming that religious exemption under the First Amendment. Maybe the Civil Rights Act is also being used because more minorities have not gotten the vaccine for whatever reason, and therefore they would be the most affected by job losses. And there could be an argument that that's a violation of their constitutional rights in the Civil Rights Act that has been passed by Congress. So I think you're going to see all kinds of different angles. Obviously, this is a new mandate that I believe Joe Biden put out there to distract from his other problems at the border in Afghanistan, inflation, higher energy prices, and the general sort of catastrophes and disasters that he's been involved in since he started in office.
Yeah, well, I know that your governor, Greg Abbott, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, he's calling this vaccine mandate from the federal level a power grab. Do you agree with this?
Oh, I think the Governor Abbott's exactly correct on that. This is a power grab because he knows, just like I know, that the Constitution does not give the president this type of authority. And it's not just this issue. If we start allowing this, which, you know, he's trying to do this in various areas, ignoring federal law and just creating his own rules and laws. And if we let the president get away with this, as much as you might like him, if you're a Democrat, or even if you like him as a Republican, we allow him to do this. We allow any president to do this, then we are moving away from the people having a government that they control, as opposed to having more of a kingship like England had, or like some of these dictatorships have. And that's the direction that Joe Biden seems to be comfortable with. And I don't think that's the direction that our founders intended.
Well, folks, 2 months on now, and we are still totally demonetized by YouTube. But given the situation where we have to censor ourselves if we want to really stay on this platform and make it work, we've decided on something else, which is this. We've launched a new platform called Epoch TV, EPOCHTV.com. And through this, we're able to publish uncensored content. News that can criticize anything we'd like, news that can talk about anything we'd like, news that can give you real information from any part of the world about any topic without having to worry whether individuals will censor it. And in this current environment where information is being controlled, where narratives are being controlled, and where anyone who steps outside the boundaries of what is the accepted narrative by the fact checkers, quote unquote, by different big tech organizations, by media organizations, and so on. This is something that we believe is needed for the modern political environment, where people should be able to call things out. People should be able to question things. This is the basis of the Fourth Estate in America. The belief, again, that media should be able to hold government power in check, and that media should be able to inform the public about the issues they should be informed about, because that is the basis of our election system. An informed public making informed decisions. If you control this system of information, you control the political system. And folks, being a media organization, we can't stand for that. And so again, we have created an uncensored platform, Epoch TV. And anyone who wants to support Crossroads or support our broader mission of bringing real news, uncensored news, that's not afraid to stand up for what matters, please check out our website, epochtv.com, EPOCHTV.com. Check out the link below, and folks, please support us there.